Now, our next guest is a self-confessed word nerd. Crossword expert David Astle has now turned his mind to unravelling the world of riddles for his latest book. It is called Riddledom 101, and David joins us now. David, good morning to you.
Morning, Michael.
Have you been a long-time fan of riddles?
Always. That's in fact how I got involved in puzzle making, because what riddles are, essentially, are cryptic clues for kids.
So how do you differentiate between a riddle and a dad joke?
Well, in fact, you have crossed the demarcation line already with your...
Apologies for
What
that.
is brown and sticky? That is a classic dad joke. I don't know how you got away with that, Michael.
It's terrible, isn't it?
And a dad joke essentially embraces the daggy, and it's often a very cheap boom-tish pun that makes the kids groan. That's important.
Right, but riddles often have and as your book explains, a fair bit of complexity.
Oh, yeah. Well, in fact, they are. I mean, not just double entendres, but riddles are also about different ways of thinking. They're about traps. They can be quite seductive. They can be tests of nerve or tests of competence. They're very important to all sort of human culture.
And what about the brain teaser type riddle, which I remember in primary school teachers would often put it to the class and get them to think about it over lunchtime if they weren't out in the playground, and then come back with an answer?
Well, that's, in fact, the fuse that lit the book was the wonderful quote from a writer called A.N. Whitehead, who says that a silly question is often the intimation of a new development. So these silly questions, as we call them, can make your brain think differently, and that's something to celebrate.
How far do they go back? You've been doing a bit of historical research, a lot of historical research for your book. Where did riddles, as we now know them, first spring from?
Now, I'm glad that's a question, not a riddle, because I wouldn't know what the answer is. But to a question, I can tell you, categorically, they go back all the way to 100 BC. Now, that's in the Sumerian race on the Euphrates. So it's safe to say we have been mucking around with riddles as humankind for over 7,500 years.
Wow. That's lots of laughter. The Sumerians must have been a funny bunch.
Well, in fact, their joke is still a little confounding. It was something like an open house, but a closed house. And people thought for years that referred to a deaf person, because house is also their term for head. But it's since been discovered that it's about a reluctant learner. So even though you have ears and eyes open, you're not taking in the message. So it's a fascinating kind of precept from antiquity.
Indeed.
So in the modern day, what makes a good riddle?
Well, I think it's lovely if you can pull in a bit of contemporary culture. One of my favourite riddles is, how do you drown a hipster? You throw him in the mainstream.
I like that one.
How do you get a musician off your driveway? Pay him for the pizza. So these are playing around with subcultures and stereotypes, but they're also mucking around with, contemporary language as well.
I like that you have a section on what are called anti-riddles, and I'll just cite one from the book. Yeah. What would Winston Churchill do if he was alive today?
He'd scream and scratch on his coffin lid.
Indeed.
Or one of my favourites is what's red and smells like blue paint? It's red paint. But to actually look at anti-riddles is a great way of understanding how a riddle works, because a riddle breaks the contract between a tricky setup and an evasive answer. It actually gives you the answer within the question, but then plays a kind of gotcha by you thinking laterally, not literally.
So don't you reckon it would be a good thing to employ for parents on long road trips with kids who are going crazy fighting and don't want to play the DVD again? How about instead of I Spy, they can have a go at some riddles?
Well, for my sins, that's how I became involved in riddles, because just to shut me up from all my kind of repartee, my parents gave me a book called 1001 Riddles.
Oh, dear.
The only
so they're to blame.
Which, in fact, you've been pretty much reading out all morning, Michael. But can you understand how that backfired on them? Because I was starting to read them, and then, of course, I had to spring them on everyone in the car.
Now, you've got a couple of riddles, brain teasers for each of us. You've put my riddle on Twitter a couple of hours ago, and I'm still struggling. And I've enlisted the audience, our very smart audience, to help. They can't work it out. What's the riddle and what's the... Oh, well, there's the riddle on the screen there. Who was the world's most bogus tenor? Drum roll, David Astle.
With your beautiful velvet voice, I had to select that riddle, and the answer is Placebo Domingo. Sorry, I can hear grown Cam working now.
Room.
Yeah, apologies. And also for Virginia and for Francis, what car does a vegan drive? Is the other one. Think green, think vegetable.
Yeah, think tasteless.
Think Alfalfa Romeo.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Sorry.
David.
I mean, that's a dead joke.
We've had another, someone actually wrote in with another car joke. What
Yeah.
did the Ford say to the Toyota?
Yeah.
Hi, Ace.
Well, in fact, with your surname Bell, here's
Yep.
one for you.
Okay.
What rings a bell and has 4 wheels?
Francis,
Stumped
quick,
again.
Go.
Stumped again.
It's the hatchback of Notre Dame.
Wow.
Another Peter Leach has tweeted, what did the hat say to the headstand?
No, tell me.
You stand here while I go on ahead. And a couple from your book, Oldies but Goodies. Why couldn't the elephant use the computer? He was afraid of the mouse.
What computer is the best singer? Adele.
Hey, there's one for Del.
Yeah, there you go.
Delorani. There's one for all the team this morning.
But, I mean, what's fascinating about riddles, they're not just the kind of playground shtick. It's also, there are means of, in Madagascar, that was how humans came to be, through riddles. There are hunting riddles in Alaska. There are slave riddles in Brazil where they sang these riddle songs just to obscure the truth from the owners.
Yeah.
So we've been at riddles as a race in every culture and every language, you know, for millennia.
And I think Michael's going to be at it again all day
Maybe
today.
we should do a co-venture next time, David.
Please
Maybe
not
I'll
for
just slip
millennia.
out and let you guys continue on.
Started something beautiful
Yeah.
here.
I saw Vanessa's eye roll. I think it's about time we wrap this riddle talk up.
When can we go out and buy your book?
It comes out on Wednesday next week, so we're getting a preview here a week away, but there's plenty of riddle action happening at the Melbourne Writers' Festival as well for people in Victoria.
Excellent. David Astle, as always, lovely chatting to you. I
Likewise.
can recommend it, having spent too many hours awake last night reading it. It's a great book.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Francis.
Thanks, David.